All right. Hey, Facebook friends. Hector here, another Hardstyle Live. Been a little silent last couple of weeks. Been on the road. Now we're back at it. Today I have the pleasure of bringing to you one of my good friends. His name is Chris Lopez. Chris and I met 2012, I want to say, at our Level 2 RKC2 in St. Paul. Chris is a Level 1 and Level 2 Russian Kettlebell instructor with StrongFirst. He's a busy dad, married, been with his wife almost 23 years, 5 children, and he runs a very successful online business where he teaches busy dads how to be strong, how to keep it all together, and how to make a good example for their children and their family. So without further ado, Chris, man, thanks for taking me up on jumping on here and just kind of telling people a little bit about yourself and where did this all start? Clearly, you didn't come out, like this awesome kettlebell instructor, movement instructor. How did all this start?
It all started, I guess. Like a lot of us. A lot of us in the industry, we all grew up athletes, and so the human body always in vertical jump. I've got like average genetics, but I fell in love with playing basketball and volleyball. And so that's kind of how it all started. My training journey started in high school when I was finding ways of being able to increase my vertical jump. And I was lucky enough to be mentored by my high school volleyball coach, who was about 5'7", 5'8", and could dunk a basketball off 2 feet. And he absolutely inspired me to want to be able to do that as well. And he was the first one to get me to do pistols and heavy squats. And that's when I really started to see the results of strength training. I was always almost like a wiry kind of athlete where I was really springy and explosive that way. So I had some natural jumping ability, even though my genetics and my body type really wouldn't dictate it so. And then when I started strength training, that's when I really started to see some results. And so that kind of lit the fire for me. When I graduated high school, I went to college, got a kinesiology degree, and played a little bit of varsity volleyball there because at that time I was jumping pretty good for my height. I'm just a shade under 6 feet. I'm about 5'11", and that was pretty short for volleyball. So I was doing that, and all the while in my third year of college, found out that my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, was pregnant with our first daughter. So we decided to move in together and start a life together. Wasn't easy at first, but that's how it all started. And having our first daughter, we had another daughter, and then 2 years after that, we had another daughter, and then we had another daughter. So somewhere in there, it was like, I'm working as a busy personal trainer. People are coming to me for fat loss advice, for how to get strong, how to get in shape, and I need a way for me to keep myself in shape. And that's how I kind of stumbled upon kettlebells and Pavel. Actually, the first book that I read of Pavel's was that I bought off Dragon Door. I think it was out of the back of a magazine. Can't remember which magazine. It could have been Men's Health, could have been some other magazine. But I bought Bulletproof Abs, and that was my first Pavel book, and that led me right down the rabbit hole into RKC and StrongFirst and where we are now. So now, fast forward however many years that was. I think I was back in my oldest daughter is 19 now, so fast forward 19 years, and we've got 5 kids. We live in Costa Rica. We moved from Toronto, sold 90% of our belongings, and are building a home in the jungle.
Nice, dude.
Sleepy beach town.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's interesting, the people that I've talked to, each, how we've been introduced to the whole kettlebell world. Each one of us was in its own unique way. Different books or a video that they saw, and it's just cool to hear everybody's different discovery of everything. So tell us about that first. So you got, and we all know the old school like marketing from the beginning. It was so like almost kind of cheesy yet, but yet somehow it mystified us, and we're like, whoa, what is this stuff? Like what kind of, like, how did that whole journey start? So you got Bulletproof Abs, wasn't even about kettlebells.
Mm-hmm.
like, how did that lead you? And talk about that journey leading into your first level one. Like, how did you did you seek out instruction? Like, how did you get started?
So I lived in Canada. I'm born and raised in Toronto. There was not an RKC in Toronto until I think I might have been, well, I know I was the first SFG in Canada when they made that transition. So just after you and I met in 2012, I became the first certified SFG instructor. But prior to that, there was no RKC in Canada, and I wasn't sure exactly, like I wasn't completely sold. So a lot of it was self-taught. I mean, a lot of what Pavel said really resonated with me as far as strength and the law of irradiation. Like that really resonated with me because I've always been and mainly because Bruce Lee kind of looks like me. And, you know, like when you're a man of color and you're looking for mentors or people to look up to, it's a little bit lacking sometimes, right? So back then, he used to talk about Bruce Lee, and there was an article that I read about how Bruce Lee would freeze the kettlebell in midair during a one-arm swing, and that's how we would focus his concentration on a punch or something to that effect. And I started to think about Bruce Lee and the wiry strength that Pavel would mention, and you know, being strong without having a lot of weight, because back then that was the bodybuilding culture. I mean, we grew up reading Muscle and Fiction, Muscle Media. There was like a bunch of magazines out there, and there was a lot of bodybuilding stuff going around, but nothing really talking about that wiry athletic strength. And so Pavel himself really resonated with me because he had that body type that I kind of wanted to look like as well. So that led me down the rabbit hole. And then after that, I think it was Enter the Kettlebell that I bought after that. And then that kind of started everything. And I started to train myself. And as you know, being an instructor, there's only so much that you can really learn from a book. So I was very self-taught, and it wasn't until 2009 it was 2010. So I was self-taught from about 2005 up until my very first RKC in Orlando, Florida, that I started to get actual instruction. And that was incredible. 2010, Brett Jones was my team leader. Dan John was a senior SFG. I met Pavel. There were a couple of RKC girls that are leadership in RKC now that were on my team. I met he was getting certified at that time. So that's kind of the hierarchy or the timeline in which everything started to happen. Was between 2005 and 2010, I was pretty much self-taught, trying to figure stuff out on my own. And and it wasn't until 2010 that I started to really get into it and seek instruction and say, you know what, this is it. I'm seeing incredible results with myself. It's time to do something with this. So that's how it worked out.
Nice, man. You know what's funny is that I was actually not supposed to, but I was actually going to register for the 2010 Orlando way back when, but it was on the same exact weekend. At the time I was running another business, so I only had 2 weeks of like vacation that I would always take around my birthday, and it's in October. Well, that was the same weekend as the jiu-jitsu tournament. So I was like, man, no, I don't want to miss that. So I missed out on that one. And I was like, well, when's the next one? Well, the next one wasn't until like almost a year later, 2011 in La Jolla, which is San Diego, in August.
Yep.
So I ended up, that was the one I went to after that. But then when I look back, you know, it was like, I think it was like was Mike Sosa at that one in 2010? There was
I don't know.
There were several that were at 2010.
I don't remember meeting Mike.
Same one. So I'm not sure.
Instructor, but, it was crazy. I mean, it was such a good time. Like it literally, like when I look back at the class photo, it's like, holy cow, look at like all these people. It's like amazing.
Yeah. Really, really, really awesome. So you found the kettlebell, you got your first official instruction. I know the epiphanies that I had at my level one. Like, what were some of the things that stood out to you of all, like with your kinesiology degree, all the things you've learned in the textbooks, and then you hear a lot of this stuff, you know, like through Pavel's teaching and the strength. Some of it almost sounds counterintuitive. Like, what were some aha moments that you had? Because a lot of people think like, oh man, I can do anything I can do with a kettle, I'll just do with a dumbbell, or I can just do with this or that. Like, what makes the kettlebell so unique from a kinesiology professional to someone that, is kind of skeptical about kettlebells?
For me, it was shoulder health. So I grew up playing baseball. I was a pitcher playing baseball when I was younger, and then I was a basketball player and then a volleyball player. So I played a lot of volleyball, and I had issues with my shoulder. And the way the kettlebell, like when you carry a kettlebell overhead, the way it kind of naturally pulls you into proper alignment, especially in the shoulder. I mean, the get up is, I used to work with national level volleyball players back in Canada, and I would always program them with the get up, because the get up helps you stabilize that shoulder in various planes at different angles. That was it for me. It was the ability just to be able to hold the kettlebell overhead for it to naturally pull you into alignment. I mean, and then again, when it comes to vertical jump, when I started using overspeed eccentrics in the kettlebell swing, that was a game changer in my training. Like with volleyball athletes, again, it's because of that off center of gravity. You can really use overspeed eccentrics to take the place almost of plyometrics. I mean, if you get volleyball players are constantly doing plyometrics in their training, like whenever they're practicing and everything, they've got so many contacts going on that there's so much impact involved that I don't really naturally, especially when they're in season, program them with plyometrics. I would use overspeed eccentrics instead, because you get the same kind of effect with that, because they're getting so many ground contacts because of their practice schedule already. So, I mean, that was mainly it for me, both as an athlete and as a coach. It was the benefits of the shoulder, being able to carry the kettlebell, and the offset set that, how you are able to use that in the swing and in the ballistics.
Nice. Yeah. So for those that are just that are tuning in and maybe unaware with our kettlebell vernacular lingo, Chris mentioned overspeed eccentric. So basically what that is on the way down, that kettlebell coming down, you're actively throwing the bell back, creating a lot of virtual force on the downswing, which in turn is, more power, more speed, etc. So it has a great carryover to sport. So for our kettlebell people that are jumping on, if you haven't tried those, we highly encourage you to tap into some of those eccentrics. It'll be a lighter load, but you can mix it in with your snatches and your swings, and it's a world of difference on carryover. Cool, man. So okay. So now we're level 1 certified. We've drank the Kool-Aid. We know we found the light. Talk about, you as a busy dad of 5, a very common thing that people struggle with is finding time to work out or finding time to stay in shape. So like you as a busy dad of 5, like what kind of encouragement, where should a busy dad start to look to getting into shape? Like what should they be doing? How can they find that time?
The biggest thing is to, just like with a family, there's a couple of things. I'll give you something immediate and then something almost philosophical. The first thing is, and I know that there are Russian journals that say that this isn't the best, but when you're a busy dad and when you're a busy parent, busy individual at all, the most important thing is to schedule time in and to try to do it as early in the day as possible. Mainly because, we've read studies or books that have said that willpower is almost like a diminishing resource as the day goes on. And so you want to try to get your training in as early as possible so that you have it and you can cross it off the list. So my biggest thing, and this was a game changer for me, especially as my business started to develop and things started to pop onto my plate, that I had to be very reactionary with things. And my training would always be the thing that suffered, because things would just always come up, and I'd be like, okay, I'll get to it. No matter how much you schedule it, there's always something that comes up. So I made training my priority. So I don't do anything. I don't look at my phone. I don't talk to anybody. I don't pick up my phone. I don't turn my computer on until 9 o'clock in the morning every day, sometimes 10 o'clock, because that allows me to wake up early, have coffee with my wife, walk on the beach, and get my training in, most importantly, and be able to have breakfast and spend time with my kids before I can get into my workday. And those are the most important things that I do. And if I get those most important things done, then no matter how the rest of the day turns out, I'm okay, because I've gotten those most important things done, which is have coffee with my wife, meditate, get my training in, have breakfast with my kids. If I get those 4 things done first thing in the day, those are always on my to-do list every day. If I get those 4 things done, whatever happens the rest of the day, I'm good. And so I encourage a lot of people, especially if you're busy, to try to get your training in as early in the day as possible. Now, I mean, I'm kind of like you, Hector, where it's like, I believe that humans should be able to get up and go. If you're a sedentary individual or you're coming from a sedentary state, especially if you've just gotten out of bed, then you'll need an extensive warm-up. I suggest not training like that within that first hour after you get out of bed. You know, have coffee, move around a little bit before you do that, and then get your training in. But try to get your training in before you get the rest of the day started. And then even from a philosophical perspective, prioritize what your goals are. And with me, as the rest of the community will, that strength is always going to be the foundation from what it is that you build everything else on. And so I program clients on a strength training program, and I've seen incredible results with fat loss only because this is part of my philosophical thing, and I don't know if everybody agrees with it, but you have to really ask yourself, what really is a fat loss program? I know that everybody wants to lose weight and everything, but in the end, if you're on a quote unquote fat loss program, but you're eating pizzas and burgers and bagels and all that stuff all day long, that's not really going to do anything, right? So you have to ask yourself, really, what is a fat loss program? So I've seen incredible results with a lot of my clients where I have them on a strength specific program and really watching their diet, and they've gotten leaner and seen the results that they want. Yeah. So that's why I always say that strength should be your priority. Get lean on a strength only program if you just eat at a caloric deficit and you really watch what it is that you're eating. Yeah. So, yeah. Nice. So those are two things. Number one, get your training in early in the day, and then number two, focus on strength.
Nice. So something that you mentioned there, which I think you and I are both a part of the same community, is you mentioned, so right out of bed, you don't really, especially if you're just kind of getting into a training program, don't get up and kind of go crazy right into doing swings and things like that. And you talked about kind of moving around. I know you're really big with OS and original strength. So what are some things people can do? They get up in the morning. I'm sure you have a very specific routine. You probably get up and you move around a little bit. What are some things people can do just to help them move better before they even get into kettlebell training, things like that?
You know what? Honestly, I love crawling. I mean, I've incorporated crawling back when I took my first OS, which was I think in 2014, maybe 2015, back when it was becoming bulletproof. And crawling had me sold. Like I said, I've had really bad shoulders, and before I had taken OS, I had gone into volleyball again, and my shoulder was really bothering me. And then I incorporated crawling into my program, and all of a sudden my shoulder stuff started to clear up. I started to get really tight together. I was able to move a lot better, and that was literally the only thing that I added in. So I really like crawling. And when I'm talking about crawling, I'm talking about crawling on the floor like a baby. Nothing even fancy like a leopard crawl or a Spider-Man crawl to start. So if you're just getting up in the morning, I think you do a bit of breathing, try to get your pelvis in alignment, try to get into, try to really level out and get into a parasympathetic state initially, and then just crawl around, maybe even for 5 minutes, forward and backwards, different directions, and do that. And I think that's a great warm-up. And so that's usually what I do for my warm-up. I'll do a few OS resets. I'll do a lot of breathing beforehand. I'll do some OS resets depending on what it is that I'm doing for that day. But then I'll crawl for 5 minutes. I'll go forward and backward, crawl around. I've got this headset on, and I'm listening to a podcast while I'm doing it, really trying to get focused on what I'm doing, and then I'll get into my training, and that's usually all I need.
Nice. That's great, man. So tell us a little bit about, you've moved to Costa Rica. You made this complete lifestyle change from the absolute freezing cold to now tropical, right? So tell us about that journey. What are you doing now? Clearly, you're not working a 9-to-5 job. What are you doing? Tell us about your transition now. You run a very successful online business where you teach people about strength training, kettlebells. Do you still work with clients face to face? Tell us about that whole transition.
Yeah, it was one of those things where back in 2010, I got approached by a good friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, listen, I've got this domain name that somebody gave me for Christmas. It's called kettlebellworkouts.com. I'm not doing anything with it, and I know you just got certified. Would you be interested in taking that on?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so he was very successful online already in the fitness industry, online. Like he had an online program that he was publishing. And so he mentored me. He was my very first business mentor, I guess you would say. And a very good friend of mine. He was a personal trainer with me at the same studio in Toronto. And so he took me under his wing, and we started working together on the kettlebell thing and started to really build traction. And the reason why he approached me about it was because, number one, he saw that I was getting really good at programming with kettlebells, but number two, he knew, like, he was there to witness me having our second child, our second daughter, and then our third, and then our fourth, and then finally my son came along. And he literally said, he was like, a guardian name, I know that you don't want to be working and trading dollars for hours all the time. I'm doing okay with my venture. I've got this kettlebell thing that I have no interest in doing, but I know that you're pretty good at it now. Would you be interested in doing that? And so he took me under his wing. I basically hired him as a business coach, and we started the kettlebell thing together. And so that's how things started. And so that started in about 2010. By 2012, that income was surpassing my one-on-one training income. And I started to make a transition out of one-on-one training. I started to increase my rates, only taking on exclusive clients, and started to grow the online business. And that's about the time when you and I met in October, just before the inception of StrongFirst. I mean, you and I were the last RKC that Pavel taught, which was pretty significant as far as and that was amazing, because I met guys like you, I met Rick, I met Big Mike. I mean, there were a bunch of people that I met that it was incredible. And point, that's when the online business started to take off. And it was funny because it organically, because I used to inject a lot about my stories about having 5 kids and being very busy. So I attracted a certain audience. And the audience were guys like me. I mean, guys between the ages of 30 and 45 who were very busy, who had kids, who wanted an efficient way to be able to get in shape, get strong, stay lean, and still have time to be able to spend with their family. And so I developed a second business off that called the Alpha Dad Project, where I not only talk about training advice now and how to get strong, but we talk about lifestyle, we talk about parenting, we talk about what it means to be a modern day family man in this day and age. And I like to say we're trying to redefine what alpha means, because alpha always means, people say that alpha means, you know, you go in and you dominate others and you dominate a room. And to me, alpha, I'm trying to remove that stigma, because there is a stigma attached to it where, you know, a lot of people attach alpha with being almost like a douchebag, but I think to me, alpha means really dominating life and really taking responsibilities and owning your stuff, owning the decisions that you make and dominating life in that way, and being very comfortable with who you are as a man. So, and that was kind of the second part of the business that evolved. And so now I've got these two businesses, kettlebellworkouts.com, where I'm actually publishing Jeff Newport's stuff now. Jeff and I are still very good friends. We talk twice a month, actually. We talk and we're still very good friends. And then I've got the Alpha Dad Project as well. So the online business and kettlebells has been very good to me. I mean, I couldn't attribute I'd like to call it success, but I wouldn't attribute the lifestyle that I have now without Pavel and without kettlebells and being able to live this type of lifestyle.
Sure.
So, that's where we are now.
You know, when you mention Alpha Dad also, I think, you know, like, it does come with a stigma. It does come with this, like, oh, this aggressive, you know, whatever. But if you also think about the word, like, alpha also means the beginning. So yeah, it's like the beginning of becoming this man, or the beginning of becoming, you know, this father athlete, you know. So you're kind of taking people from the beginning and teaching them, hey, this is how you can be a better husband, better father, better athlete, like all this kind of stuff. So it's great that you're taking on that project, man. So kudos to you in that. I myself, I've spoke with you. I'm trying to venture into some of the online stuff. There's a learning curve to it. But before I get into that, I think it's something lately, you know, online training is the rave. Like, everybody wants to be an online trainer or coach, which I think some people can jump in a little too soon and not pay their dues. You didn't just decide, hey, I'm going to become an online trainer. Like, you got a kinesiology degree. You've been training. You've been in the trenches teaching people for years before you said, hey, okay, now I'm going to start to kind of shift some of this towards that.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm sure we see it all the time. Like, what are your thoughts? Where do you think people should start if they wanted to do an online business?
Well, I mean, I can see that that's the way the industry is going now, where online is I mean, in the end, as trainers, as coaches, we have to know how to deal with people. And there's a certain skill that's developed when you're dealing with somebody one-on-one, when you can put your hand on their shoulder and say, good job, or when you can correct them and tactily or using tactile and, you know, put them in the right spot, or really just that one-on-one connection. So you and I mean, we met in person first. I mean, yeah, we're connecting right now online, but this does not have the same feel as if you and I were to go to a restaurant and sit down and have a steak and really talk and about that. So I think a lot of people jumping into the online space, yeah, I agree. I have to agree. Maybe that's because I'm old school, but yeah, you got to pay your dues and you got to learn how to deal with people first, especially from a coaching standpoint, before you can even get in there and call yourself an online trainer. Because let's face it, I mean, anybody with some type of mark understands the algorithm of Google or Facebook or whatever, can write a Facebook ad, send them to their page, call themselves the best online trainer ever, put up a bunch of fake testimonials, and they can have a thriving business. That's great. But in the end, that doesn't give you the skills required to be able to deal with people and how to properly program people and actually see what works, to get your feet wet, to get your feet dirty, to get your hands dirty, and get in the trenches and actually work with people to be able to do that. So yes, I think we're at an amazing time in business right now where the internet can give you a successful business in a very short time, or it can really cut the learning curve down. But at the same time, you are missing a huge aspect of training, of that ability to connect with people if you're not working with them face to face in person. There's a huge disconnect there if you're not able to do that. So I would encourage you, if you're thinking about going online, to work with people first, at least for, and I hate to say it, but at least for 5 years. I mean, put your hours in. Find mentors out there that are really doing amazing things, work with them and provide service to them and do that. Because in the end, sorry, there's a Spanish class going on outside, and so they're all like yelling and stuff like that. In the end, I think it'll all get sorted out. I think that the people that put the time in and put the effort in and really develop the skills, they'll be the ones who stay for a while. Yeah. And the other ones will kind of almost maybe fizzle out in the online world, as much as it is in the offline world running a gym, right?
Sure, absolutely. And kettlebellworkouts.com, like when I saw that, I was like, dude, how in the world did he even get that domain? That's so genius, you know? And so simple, you know, it's like, it says what your business is, right? Which is
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's very transparent. So let's shift gears really quick. So with your online business, like what projects do you have coming up? Like how can people find, obviously kettlebellworkouts.com, right? Like go check out your domain. Like, do you teach courses? How can people find you if they wanted to work with you?
Okay, well, the best thing to do is go to kettlebellworkouts.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there. If you go to the products page, you'll see all of mine and all of Jeff's products as well. So if you're interested in anything kettlebell, like kettlebell, we've got Kettlebell Express. I just wrote a program called Kettlebell Alpha that I really love, that's based on the double front squat and the snatch and loaded carries. So that's kind of like my go-to program these days, and that's one of my favorite ones. Actually, this is really big news. Jeff and I are relaunching Kettlebell Strong. We've added some bonuses to it, and we're making it available digitally now as well. So as most of us know, ours out there, we bought Jeff's program as a physical copy, but we really want to bring it out to the masses. We feel that there's a big missing component out there in the market for good double kettlebell training. There's a lot of people in different countries that can't get shipping and that are having difficulty. Like they don't want to pay whatever, $90, $100 for shipping to be able to get Kettlebell Strong. So we're making that available digitally. It's going to be streamed. It's going to be streaming video. It's a really cool product. So that's coming out in September. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing is just the Alpha Dad project. I've just got a weekly newsletter that I send out with the Alpha Dad project that give you different diet, strength, lifestyle hacks, how I travel. Like I've gotten a lot of really cool questions about, you know, my favorite books and, you know, what my everyday carry is. That was pretty interesting. So I've got a post coming out on that. So there's a bunch of stuff. So if you're interested in the lifestyle stuff, the busy dad stuff, busy parent, and as you mentioned, minimalist stuff, because my wife and I basically took in a comfortable space in Toronto, you know, a city where you have everything at your fingertips. And as you mentioned, sold 95% of our stuff and are now building an off-grid home out of shipping containers in Costa Rica. And so, you know, we're going to be living totally off-grid. So we've got solar power, rain catchment, well water, composting toilets. I probably lost you there after I said that. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. And I'm building a really nice platform with a roof for my gym. So a little bit on minimalist lifestyle. You can go to the alphadadproject.com for that, or alphadadproject.com. And that's pretty much where you can find me. You can just Google Chris Lopez Kettlebell. It'll take you to one of my web pages as well.
Nice. Well, man, that is so. First, I mean, that is just so cool, you know, because we talk about it all the time, like, oh, I would want to live on an island, or I would want to do this or that, but like you're actually doing it, which is like awesome. So, congrats on that. Congrats on just taking action on the life that you wanted to create, you know. And I think that's, if anybody gets anything out of this broadcast, is, you know, what kind of life do you want to live? You know, you're always going to have to work hard. That's never going to go away. Yeah, man, thanks for taking the time to jump on. And for those that want to work with Chris, or those that want to kind of learn about his programs or his projects, go to his website. You can also follow him, I'm sure, on Facebook. Do you have a business Facebook page they can connect with you also?
Yeah, you can go to facebook.com/kettlebell workout programs, or you could just friend me. It's facebook.com/the real Chris Lopez. That was what was available, so I went for that. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, just friend me, check out the Facebook page, and yeah, I'll hook you up with some goodies.
Nice. Awesome, guys. Well, I try to keep these to 30 minutes. I know everybody's crazy busy. Chris, I know you're really busy, man. Thanks for jumping on, and thanks for your friendship. And I'm sure you and I will see each other live and in person for real one day again.
Absolutely, for sure, Hector. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one. We're out of here, and we'll see you guys next Friday. Bye.